Good morning, my friends. How are you this weekend? I hope your weekend is off to a fabulous start. I'm recording this on Saturday morning, so hopefully it's up in time. I think it should be. But let's not waste some time. Let's crack into it so that I have a better chance of getting it up live. We are, of course, doing our collage story for this weekend. And the prompts are from the lovely Robyn. Thank you, Robyn. So let's get organised here. Bring out my paper. Make sure it's up the right way for gluing. And the prompts are orange, music paper, antique furniture, a toy, a garden tool, and the sixth prompt from me today is a room of a house. Okay, so I think I'm going to tell the story as I compose the collage. I think that's what I'm going to do today. And our main character today is a lovely elderly gentleman named Gordon, and we'll get to meet Gordon partway through the story, but we're just going to start telling his story with laying down the prompts. So I'm going to do the sheet music first, or the music paper. So Gordon lives in a big city, and he's lived there for all of his married life. But Gordon is now a widower, so he lives alone, and his children have all grown up and moved away, and he's in this big city all by himself. And it's been okay. He's done okay for himself. He has been good. He has his home and his memories, and he enjoys things. But of late, poor Gordon has been having quite a terrible time of it. Things are getting on top of him, and he's beginning to get really irritated by things that formerly he loved. And he's very uncomfortable. And so he's in a neighborhood, and he loves music, really enjoys music, and he thought to pick himself up, he would go along and see the orchestra play. So he went along to the show, and he was there for 10 minutes, and it just became too much. It's like the noise is incredible. The drums and the piano and the violins and all the music combined, it really seemed to grate his nerves, and he could not physically stand it. So he walked out and went home. So the next day after this, he's like, I've just got to find some peace somewhere. Some peace, because even his kitchen is really annoying him. His kitchen, the coffee machine, the toaster, the electric jug, everything is just noise. It's just really beginning to bug him. It's just all this noise constantly, and he's not enjoying being in his own kitchen. Now I think I might need to glue something. So he decided he'd head out and find a quiet place, and along the way he came across these construction men and women, and they're wearing orange vests, they're high-vis vests. And they were just in the process of demolishing a tall office block building, with dynamite and, well, actually, I don't know if they use dynamite, but, with explosives. And he's walking past just at the precise moment that they push the detonator to bring down this building. And poor Gordon, he almost jumped out of his skin. The noise shook him right down to the bones and gave him quite the fright. Of course, he'd seen them there, but hadn't paid any attention to why they were there or what they were doing. So you can see in the background here, hopefully, that the building, the dust has come up, and he's demolishing that building. So Gordon was like, it scared him so much, he just literally ran back home. It was too much noise, too much aggravation. And so he went home and he spent the rest of the day in bed, because the bed was a quieter space than his own kitchen. So he's really struggling. So let's put the kitchen on. I'm going to end up, actually I don't need all that, like the windows and the lights and everything. So let's just sort of trim that down. So I would like to keep the detonator there if I can, and that will work beautifully. Also need to think about my prompts. Think maybe in here. So I'll make this my pocket. Poor Gordon, can you just imagine how awful he is feeling right now? And he doesn't know why. Like, he's lived in the city for many, many, many years and can't understand why he's feeling this way, why everything is just getting too much for him. To not even enjoy being in his own kitchen is a terrible feeling. So there's our kitchen, room of a house. So we'll meet Gordon, I think, right at the end. So he decided, okay, the next day. So day one, he tried to go to see the orchestra, failed. Then he tried to go out for a walk, met up with the construction noise, failed. So he thought, okay, I'll give it another go. Today I'm going to head out and go to the park. And he thought, that's going to be a beautiful quiet space. There'll be birds. I can find a spot where I'm not around lots of people and I can just enjoy nature and have a really nice time. So he headed off to the park and found a park bench. Maybe we'll put it there. I don't know if you can see what this is. This is a rotary hoe. This is our garden tool. And he's found a spot and he was sitting on the park bench, and for a while he quite enjoyed it. He took some birdseed and fed the birds. And it was like, yeah, this is lovely. And he started to relax. And then next minute he heard this awful noise. Mechanical noise. And it was coming from behind him. And his park bench was up against a row of bushes. And so he got up from the park bench and went around the other side of the bushes. And what did he see? There was a plot where they were working on to get ready to plant new plants, and they were rotary hoeing it. And he just put his hands up to his head and was like, no. And he could have found another spot in the park and tried again, but he couldn't. So he ran home again. Not run, but got home as quickly as he could and went back to bed, where he found some semblance of peace and quiet. But he doesn't want to spend all day, every day in bed. That's not what he wants for his life. So the next day he thought, okay, I'm going to try again. So he headed in a different direction. And so he went for a walk, and it was quite a pleasant walk. It was a beautiful day. And he was walking around the neighborhood, trying out some streets he hadn't been down before, just to try and enjoy the walk and explore and have a nice time. And what did he find? He found a kindergarten. Might put it on the kitchen. A kindergarten along the street. And the children were out running around the playground, hooting and hollering and laughing and screaming and doing all the things that little kids do. And one boy was playing a drum, so this is the toy, and he was boom, 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 very discordant sound, no rhythm, no tune or anything to it. It was just all noise, and it was full on, and he was really going for it. And poor Gordon was like, no. And he just could not walk any further, and he couldn't face having to walk back past this kindergarten on his return journey, because he didn't know if there would be another route back to his home. So he went back home as fast as he could and climbed back into bed. And he's like lying in bed, not sleeping. He's not sleeping. He's just trying to have some calm and some peace. He's like, there must be something I can do, somewhere I can go to gain some peace, to gain some quiet, to have thinking time where I can actually think and not be distracted, where I can settle my nerves, because he was feeling incredibly frazzled by all this noise in the city around him, and even in his own home. So he rang his daughter, who lived quite a wee way away, and had a chat with her, and was like, darling, I've got to get out of the city. I've got to go somewhere. I've got to go somewhere where there's peace and quiet, just for a time, just to kind of get myself back. And so the daughter was very kind and understanding, and so they ended their conversation, and the daughter went away and did some research and did some planning, and then she rang him back and says, Dad, I've got an answer for you. She says, I found this place. It's really remote, and immediately he smiled into the phone. It was like, oh, that sounds good. Remote, I can handle remote. And she says, it's a little place, it's a little cabin, there's no electricity. How do you feel about having no electricity? And he was like, oh, actually, that sounds pretty good. She says, tell me more. And so she went on to tell him about this place that she had found, and he was like, oh, daughter, that's amazing. That sounds like exactly what I need. Book it for me, please, and as soon as possible, I want to get there. And he knew he would have to face some noise to get there. He'd have to face transportation, the noise of that, people around, to get to this place of solitude. But it was worth it. So she booked the place for him for a month, so he could have a good solid time of peace and quiet. And the day arrived when he had to leave, so he put in some earplugs to try and dampen the noise. It helped a little bit, not a lot, but he did it. And he got on the train, and he took a train to get to the first place, and then he had a taxi to the next place, and then he hired a little rental car to drive the final distance to this quite remote little cabin. And he walked up, and it was just delightful. Beautiful wooden cabin under some trees, just delightful. There was no buildings, no people within miles of this beautiful little cabin. There was no telephone wires, there was no electricity wires. It just looked ideal. So he settled himself in. He unpacked his case, he set out his food in the kitchen, and was just like, oh, this is lovely. There's no distractions, of course, no TV, there's no computer, there's absolutely no distractions. He does, of course, have his cell phone with him, because in case of an emergency, he needs to be contactable or be able to contact someone. So safety first always. So dear Gordon, we have dear Gordon here. He's got his books, he's got his candlelight, because there's no electricity. And at the end of the first day, he's heading off to bed, feeling already incredibly relaxed. He's feeling very relaxed. And as he's heading down the hallway to bed, and he's finished making his own noise, you know, the noise of preparing dinner and eating and unpacking and all that. And that took him till quite late. So he's heading to bed, and he's heading down the hallway towards the bedroom. It's only a small cabin. And there he heard it. Tick, 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 bong, bong. And it was a grandfather clock in the end of the hallway, and it was just chiming the hour. And he looked at it and squinted at it like, And he just stood there, looking at it, thinking about it. So he's looking at the clock. This is our antique bit of furniture. Contemplating. And then it went back to tick, tick, tick. And he just closed his eyes for a moment. Closed his eyes and just listened to the tick, gentle, calming, reassuring in its consistency, even-toned, no discordant notes, no sudden jarring sounds, just the constant tick, tick, tick. And even the bong of the chiming of the hour was a beautiful, deep, resonant tone that just was grounding. It wasn't annoying. He didn't find it annoying. He found it quite comforting. And it was just the gentle, reassuring rhythm. And he was like, yes, this is the place. I can handle this noise. This noise is constant. This noise is peaceful. It's constant in its tone. It's constant in its feeling. And so he gave a big sigh of relief and toddled off to bed with his books. And he spent a very, very happy month in this little cabin with no electricity and no horrible noises, no jarring sounds, just the constant company of the ticking grandfather clock. And he came home and he settled back into his daily life, and suddenly he found that everything settled back into normal. So the sounds in his kitchen were no longer annoying. They became familiar and comforting that he was back home, because everybody loves being home. And he could now appreciate the sounds of his own home. And eventually he did wander back out into the city, and he was able to enjoy once again the sounds around him, the sounds of the children playing. And he could pick out the happiness in it now, not just the jarring. Construction, of course, there's always going to be construction in a city. Not often the demolition, but he was able to appreciate that it was progress, that it was people enjoying life and building dreams. And the garden, he went back to the park and saw the garden that they had planted where they had rotary hoed it. And he stopped and picked a flower and smelt the flower and looked at the place and thought, you know what, that noise was necessary. We wouldn't have had that beautiful patch of flowers if they hadn't have prepared it with rotary hoe. So he began to appreciate those noises of life and was okay with them. But he just really needed that time away. So there we go. That is today's story of Gordon and his little getaway and detoxification from the noises of life. That's really what it was, wasn't it? It was detoxing from the noise. So that's it for today, my friends, for the story and for the collage. So I'm just going to tuck this in here so I don't lose it in between times. So that's going to tuck in there a nice wee pocket. And let's pull the prompt for next week. Next week I will be away, so I'll have to pre-record it several days in advance actually. So it's going to be a busy week. I expect more gaps than normal in my programming because I've only got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday available, and that's half of Wednesday, not full Wednesday, to actually record videos, unless I can find a moment on Thursday. But hubby's got the day off, so yeah, it's going to put quite a bit of pressure on the week. So please forgive any gaps, but I will try and do the collage stories ahead of time so you will have that, because it's a short video, so usually can slot it in somewhere. Right, oops, upside down. Jatsy girl, it's your B list. I've been looking forward to this B list. Of course, composed because my name starts with B. She's very sweet. So we have for next week book, bank, bird, box, and bump. Bump's going to be an interesting one. Okay, well, that's the prompts for next week. This is a little reminder of what we just did today. Have a fantastic weekend, my friends. Do something fun, do something creative, do both. Take care, and I'll be back on Monday. I'll see you then. Bye for now.